Hi, today I'm going to talk about the scarab seals of Egypt and how they kind of got all the way to Greece and Rome and just kind of what they represented. So here we are starting with the Wings of Eternity. Okay, today we're going to talk about the symbolism of scarabs, so what they represent in regards to Egypt as well as Greece. We're going to talk about the specifics of the Egyptian scarabs, trade, and Greek scarabs specifically. All right, so at a glance, um, for Egypt, they essentially looked at the scarab as something very sacred, that stood for creation, rebirth. They kind of like the cycle of life, so the rising sun specifically, um, for like renewal after death. So they saw that as a way to represent that, whether it was carving a little scarab into their sarcophagus or these little seals that they would either wear or adorn um, anything inside of the tomb. And in regards to Greece, they actually use this as like a status symbol. So they got them through the trades and they used it as a way to kind of show that they were like sophisticated. And then to also use as like a physical seal and well, like a status kind of situation. Alrighty. So scarabs of Egypt. So like I mentioned, they're known to represent manifestation. So they could be used for ornamentation, seals, protection from evil. Um, how they kind of they engraved very specific um symbols that represent like life after death or kind of this seal belongs to this person specifically. And Egypt also used like certain shapes. So there's like heart-shaped scarabs that would protect the soul from judgment after death. And there's also it also kind of like flips to that the heart wouldn't betray the deceased. So kind of more of like a cosmic renewal, just more of so like protection and in the afterworld. And the next slide is how we got there. So trade from Egypt to Greece. Egypt used a bunch of different types of ships. So they used, depending on the type of cargo they would trade, they would have specific like smaller, lighter boats that would sit on the Nile, that they were made of like papyrus, which essentially they were like they weren't able to carry like heavy golds and art of like anything of like super duper value that they would take to Greece and areas like that obviously wouldn't be able to be used on those ships. They would have specific cargo ships that would make it to Greece, and then they would trade in those locations through the Mediterranean for literally everything. So scarabs made their way all the way to Greece, Rome, throughout time. So that's how the scarabs were kind of adapted to Greece. Where, as you can see, there is like they used them like as rings and seals to kind of stamp on documents, status symbols, like I mentioned. They did use a lot of different types of materials, like they did a lot of like copper, um, carnelian as well. And then jasper is like this type of black metal. So on their representation, as you can see, there's not like a scarab or hieroglyphic type specific to like a god or anything. They did it to as simple as like somebody leaning on a staff, but they did also have those seals that would have like a lion on it or Medusa or anything in regards to like a specific person they wanted to kind of represent on their hands. So uh they most of the time in Greece would have like three specific people that were on the scarab. So Athena and Apollo. Also, like any animals that show like strength, resilience, like lions, they're very heavy on that symbolism of just kind of showing like that they're tough, not merely for really protection, but it's just more of like a status symbol. Um, and that's essentially kind of the different types of scarabs throughout Greeks and how they varied in kind of symbolism and the reasons they were invented. Essentially, they got inspiration for Egypt and then just use them as a status symbol. Alrighty. Thank you very much.